of the Meek, where we watch made-for-TV movies and miniseries so you don't have to. From Gia to Xenon, Hysteria to Sybil, welcome to Movies of the Meek.
I would love it if you would tell me what this movie is about.
Max, it's been a while since we've done one of these, and the usual format is we go in and we give a brief intro of the movie and then go through the plot. But I think that might be impossible for this movie. So I wrote down, the first thing I wrote down was, is this a movie? Question mark. And I don't know if I came to a conclusion.
Yeah.
But it's more of a series of like poorly shot vignettes with some Neil Young songs thrown in.
Yep.
But there is a plot, I think, or some sort of plot, or there's at least a message, a very powerful message.
I'm still waiting for you to tell me what either of them are.
All right, so I guess first and foremost, this is a vehicle for Neil Young's music that he wrote for this. It has some songs that he clearly wrote for this movie, in quotes. But it also has some footage from a concert, some random concert. I don't know. And then those songs appeared to be actual Neil Young songs.
Yes.
And there's also a Willie Nelson song thrown in too.
Because why not?
But I don't understand why Willie Nelson wasn't playing, because he was in the movie.
Yeah.
He's not in the scene where they play his song. So
he doesn't play his own song.
In fact, Neil Young doesn't even sing. It's his guitar player.
Yeah.
All right, so let's kind of go to the beginning of the movie. So it starts on it starts with some horrible garage or iMovie filters, like the grainy Super 8 filter, and it goes to this posse, Neil Young's posse, who we come to find out is his band and road crew, I guess. And this is where a lot of questions started forming in my mind about the very nature of this posse, and also when this movie takes place. It appears that they're living in the Old West. But then we quickly learn that this has to take place in some sort of apocalypse.
See, you're adding way more to it than I was. That's generous of you.
I was really trying to I was trying to make sense of this movie in some way. We learned earlier on that they are prospectors.
Yes.
Whatever that means. Because they seem to be just digging up old electronics for most of this movie.
Mainly cameras and keyboards,
cameras and remote controls and Xbox controllers. So this obviously takes place after the end of civilization, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. It could just be a landfill. It's not exactly clear. And then, so in addition to that, so there's the posse plot. Let's say that's plot A, right? Is the posse,
yes,
doing their posse stuff, making fart jokes, just having a good time, playing some music. There's also the B plot, which is Neil Young riding trains and robbing banks.
A lot of trains.
Does he own the train?
That is his train, and he is taking it all around the country.
So he's a conductor as well.
Which, easily, again, the time period for this film is very confusing, but that easily puts you in early 1900s, because the train line is finished,
It's almost as if they didn't have a clear idea when they started filming this movie.
If I could find out if they were given a budget of any kind, I would be thrilled to know that information. Because the idea that Netflix gave them money for this,
it's insane.
Insults me.
Well, it's insane that someone would greenlight this. I really hope Neil Young had already filmed this and shopped it around, and Netflix bought it because they were like, hey, people like Neil Young songs. I actually don't mind a few of his songs. But you have to work so hard to get to the songs. It's like it's like almost 30 minutes before they go into the first concert sequence, which is really weird in and of itself. They're like in this tent and they start tying each other up. And I was like, what is happening? And then you realize that the one special effect that they mastered in this movie, they wanted to get a lot of use out of, which is people floating upward when music is played.
Yeah.
So they did that a lot in that scene. And then I think there's some more filler scenes after, and then it goes right into, like, hard cuts right into an actual concert. Completely out of place.
Which it did raise the question of whether or not you could consider that to be happening outside of the world of the movie or not, or whether or not I was supposed to actually think of that as part of the movie. I don't know the answer.
I think when I was watching it, I thought that he was kind of remembering what life used to be like when he could play music in front of people.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it is, they had that footage and they needed some filler, for sure.
And that's... Okay, so in an interview with Neil Young about this, he did discuss the fact that these songs, they tell this story. And it almost makes it seem as if this is the narrative that these songs were already telling, and therefore this was a necessity for this images for us to be seeing as a vehicle for this story to be properly told. I don't think that's true. I don't know in what manner he considers those songs to be part of the train robbing Willie Nelson bank heist narrative, which then completely gets abandoned for the weird women showing up on a bus and deciding what barter items they want narrative. And that's the confusing thing, because most of this movie just seems to be Daryl Hannah and Neil Young just wanting to wax philosophically off into the distance. And none of the songs seem to have any specific thing that they want to be saying. And I don't think the film even has a very specific thing philosophically that it wants to be saying.
Absolutely not. I don't think at any point does it say anything. The only part where it comes close is when he starts rambling on, and the confusing part is that he starts this in the concert sequence, which is outside of the movie. He starts talking about to the crowd, and he's like, "What if the seeds were owned by the corporations, man?" I forgot about that. I wonder if they had that footage. I don't know even what year that was shot, but if they had that concert footage and they just took that one kernel and spun it out into this movie, because there is some connection to that line, right? The bank that he robs is called Seed Bank. They refer to the seeds later in the movie in the last 10 minutes when those women come.
Yeah.
I don't really understand what he's trying to say. Like, what if corporations own seeds? I don't know. I don't know, Max. It's not even a world where they have trouble eating. You know what I mean? Like it'd be one thing if it was just an anti-corporate movie and you saw the effects of corporations taking over the world, and they were living in that reality, and this was a movie about how we shouldn't let that happen. But they seem to be living in a pretty peaceful world. They have electric. They can do what they want. They drink. They shit together. Which, again, that is one part of the movie that really threw me through a loop. I mean, I don't even understand what that was. And they did it 3 times.
The two of them sitting next to each other talking on the toilet.
Yeah. I think they just thought it was funny. I don't know. I will say he does look kind of cool as a cowboy.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. Like, I thought, I mean, I wouldn't say the other costumes were that great, but like the way he looked, I thought he sold me on that. Like, I could see him, having a cameo in some Western movie.
Yeah.
And he didn't say much in this movie, really. He just said a few weird things. Just like, like you said, weird philosophical things, I guess. About seeds and some other things. I don't know, Max. I think I'm just more confused than anything else.
And it, I don't know. It's you want to go and compare this to other musical movies and things like that, and it falls flat with anything that you compare it to. If you compare it to a Purple Rain, where it's a clear narrative, and then there's music in it, and the music's great on its own, and then some of the songs actually interact and engage and are interwoven into the storyline, that works perfectly well. And then alternatively, I mean, another example of what I feel like he was going for is like Devin Townsend did a concert where he just took a whole bunch of his songs and created a narrative based upon that, and this doesn't do that either.
No, not at all. What was the one we saw? Oh, the Metallica movie, the concert. But that's
Through the Never.
Through the Never, but they like, first off, it rocked, but there was a narrative, right? It was
yes.
cut. The narrative. It was that the kid from Chronicle, I think, was in it.
Yep.
And he was, I forget what the plot was, but it would cut from him being a rebel to the concert footage, and he eventually got to the concert, right? Like, wasn't
yes.
that yeah? So
he does get there.
We were very, very drunk when we saw that movie. I don't remember it, but that was done. I remember at the time thinking this movie is kind of shitty, but that's a masterpiece compared to this.
Yeah.
So the women, I don't know if we want to get into it. The women, he says something that the women sowed the seeds or something, or they worked the land, as he's strumming his guitar, and then it cuts to a bunch of ladies, like picking fruit.
Yeah.
And then they drive to the campground where the men are, and in like a tour bus.
Yeah.
And they like just dump the fruit, but the guys think it's breeding time. But they're like,
it was when that tour bus showed up. That's when every concept of what era this film was in completely just blew out the window to me.
Absolutely.
Because I had a fairly good idea that we could pretend this was early 1900s, and then when the tour bus showed up, I was like, so this is basically the timeline for like The Village, you know?
Wait, you're pretending it was early 1900s even after they were finding keyboards
even after they were finding keyboards, I was like, listen, they probably don't have enough money for gold props. They probably spent it all on who knows what Daryl Hannah needs. And so instead of getting gold props for their mining, they spend it all on that Super 8 effect. And therefore, they're just going to have some PS4 controllers, and it is what it is.
There was the cameo by Willie Nelson, which I didn't understand. I guess about every scene in this movie, but they have like it almost looks like they're having a duel almost.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen. And then they're just like, let's go rob a bank. And then they rob a bank. They rob the seed bank. And I don't know. I think I asked you this, but I'm assuming this takes place the same time earlier in the movie where he robs the bank.
Yeah.
But it was like a reveal. Like, oh, Willie Nelson was there too? They don't actually show the bank being robbed. They just show them go in and leave with a pile of seeds.
Here's what I assume went down. Neil was like, hey, Willie, we want to use your song for this campfire scene in this movie. And Willie was like, oh, well, can I be in the movie? And he was like, yeah. Oh, do you want to do the song? No. And that's that.
And that's that, I guess. We do see a dick in this movie.
Oh my god.
Which was really out of place.
Yeah.
But it really added to that like Neil Young humor that I love. Like everyone really knows Neil Young to be like a funny dude. And like this really just solidified that in my head. Like, yeah. He's one of the greats. Musically and comically.
When I think of Neil Young, I think of the song Old Man, and I think about how he's just like a goofster.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I am at a loss for words about this because it just says nothing. And it's not even, I joked that this was like seeing Gummo for the first time, and the comparison is that, like Harmony Korine's entire career, like his goal was showing America non-linear narrative stories. But still, I feel like I got more out of Gummo than this.
But keyword story, Yeah. Like that still had a story. This didn't. It really felt kind of like I said yesterday. It felt like some kind of just like extra that would be found on a Neil Young DVD or something. Like they just had they shot like the band goofing around in costumes, and they filmed some some of the some music being played, and then they threw it on like a DVD, and that's kind of what this feels like. I actually, in my notes, I felt like such a jackass when I finished this movie because because it has chapter, has 3 chapters, like actual like title cards when they come up and everything, and I was like breaking my notes out by chapter, like hoping to find some kind of pattern or some kind of message, but it's literally just like chapter 1. Why are they shitting together? Chapter 2. Why are they shitting together? Chapter 3. They're still shitting together.
And being 100% honest, when chapter 3 came in, I went, have there been chapters this whole time?
This is a movie where you could just, it's easy to get distracted by, I don't know, your phone, or I would just find myself staring off into the room. Some scenes. Oh my god! And I love how they didn't even try to establish any of these characters, or like it was. I think the most we got was one of them was talking like the Nelson brothers or something.
Yeah.
And they were just like, the Nelson brothers, he's crazy and he is a good gunslinger.
And I mean, they try to establish a little bit of a character with the guy that looks like he's from like a professor in Wild Wild West, with the goofy goggles, and he's the one quoting Nietzsche and stuff like that. But fuck off. I don't know, and that's the thing, man. Like if you're going to, this movie is okay. Semi weird reference. This movie is the scene in the movie A Ghost Story where all the hipsters, including Kesha, are sitting around a table talking about life. And the thing is that scene works pretty well in the movie because you've had like 60 minutes of building up of this theme. And then you have the hipster scene where you're like, okay, now this is for the dumb people to be like, oh, that's what the theme of the movie is. And then there's another 20 minutes of that theme, and then it ends. This movie is just that scene where it doesn't have any sort of depth. It doesn't have any sort of way that it's actually showing you any of these ideas, any of these themes, any of these concepts. It's just people saying things. And they don't even really believe the things that they're saying.
It's
like the
joke.
one,
it's like oh my god, like Netflix gave us all this money. Like, let's, you know what I mean? Like it's very light when they're spouting all of this nonsense. And half the time they don't even finish it. Like he would start saying something and then he would just stop. Like he'd be quoting something and he would just stop mid quote.
I mean, life's like that,
Life is like that. I wish the music, said something or did something, meant anything. But it is what it is. I might go back and listen to a Neil Young album or two. I don't know. What else is there to say? I mean, there's not even like fun or funny trivia about this movie.
No.
Except that it was shot in 3 days, which is not surprising. It said principal photography for the film was only 3 days. Okay. While the band adjusted to the altitude before performance. So like this was shot before a concert, and it was only shot so they could get used to the altitude before they actually did their job. I love the plot keywords. Can I read them off real quick?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is on IMDb. These are the only plot keywords: male nudity, male frontal nudity, male full frontal nudity, pubic hair, male pubic hair. Like, yeah, that has to be a joke. Like someone fucking. That's hilarious. All right. Well, I think we exhausted pretty much every avenue to kind of dissect this movie.
Yeah.
Unless you have anything else, Max.
No.
No. Okay. So what are we doing next time?
Next time we'll be watching and reviewing the film Horse Sense, which I know this is the third time that I've said that we're gonna do this movie.
Wait, really?
Yes. But we're gonna do it this time.
Hell yeah.